Hello, guys. Welcome to the show. I'm really glad to have you here. Listen, it's time for us to make sense of the Brexit because it's vitally important right now, not just to the people that live in Great Britain, but to the world economy in general. There's very much uncertainty about what's going to happen, and I'm going to try to clarify things for you guys tonight. I'm going to try to. Now, I cannot with absolute certainty tell you which way that they're going to vote in the British Parliament, but I can use the power of deduction, something like Sherlock Holmes used to use to solve crimes. I can use that power of deduction to kind of figure out what's most likely to happen. And that's what I'm going to do tonight with you guys. So let's get the chart started right here and take a look. Now, this is from BBC News. It says Brexit. Does anyone really know what's going to happen next? And, of course, here it says that what happens next? Anyone who tells you they know is lying. Well, that would be anybody who tells you they know for sure, absolutely 100% what's going to happen next. But by using the power of deduction, we can probably figure the probability of the most likely outcome. And that's what we're going to do here, is find out what the most likely outcome is. And so I'm not going to take you all the way through this article. It's rather long. And it's rather, well, it basically goes into talking about it. It talks about the vote. It talks about a lot of things in this article. But it's a very good article. And that's why I got it on here. But this is the point I want to make right here. Right here. They're kind of giving it away about what Westminster thinks. It says, at the moment, that seems unlikely. It says, so conversations are frantic at Westminster. Frantic about what happens when, not if, the vote fails again. About what happens when the vote fails again, not if the vote fails again. So, at Westminster, they're almost having a foregone conclusion that this Brexit deal that Theresa May is trying to get through is going to fail again. And so we see the way it's going here, what they think at Westminster. They're frantic. The conversations are frantic about what happens when, not if, the vote fails again. So they're already saying to themselves, hey, you know what, this is going to fail. And otherwise they wouldn't be having these frantic conversations at Westminster. And so we can kind of see that that's not the likely outcome of her passing the deal. So we can kind of rule that out. We can kind of scoot it off to one side, her getting her deal passed through. Now, if we move down here, we find out that they are going to, it says if Tuesday, another disaster for the PM, so in other words, if her deal fails, the MPs will vote Wednesday to remove the possibility of leaving at the end of the month if there is no deal. So what they're basically going to vote on then Wednesday is whether or not to go with a no-deal Brexit at the end of the month. Now, what do you think the possibility of them saying, okay, we're going to go with that. We're going to pass a no deal. We're going to go ahead and leave the European Union on the 29th of March. What do you think the odds of that happening is? And they say right here, the BBC says right here, in their own words, they say it's extremely unlikely that they're going to pass that deal. So we can kind of push that one to one side and say that's not likely to happen either. That they're probably not going to go for a leave leaving the European Union on the 29th of March, and they're probably going to vote that down, and they're probably going to vote for something else, and the something else is coming. It says will they then vote next Thursday? I guess that's the day after. They're going to vote to agree that the government needs, therefore, to ask the EU for an extension. Now, here's what the BBC says about that. They say it's likely. It says, but not inevitable. What they're saying here is it's likely that they will vote for the extension, but it's not inevitable. Okay? They're leaving a little room out there. They say it's not inevitable. And I'm going to follow along with their lead, and I'm going to say, yes, it is not inevitable. But it's likely. It's likely that's what they're going to vote for. So of the three options, that's the most likely outcome. Using deduction, the most likely outcome is that they are going to vote for an extension on Thursday of next week. Okay? Now, what will happen after they vote for that extension is then they have to run that through all the member states of the European Union, and they all have to approve, which is actually likely to happen, because what member state wants to say, okay, no, they're all probably going to follow along, and they're probably all going to say yes. Okay, so Britain's probably going to get a 3-month extension to this. Now, you're probably saying to yourself, well, what's wrong with that? We can push this thing off for 3 months into the future. And I'm going to tell you what's wrong with that. What's wrong with that is right here. Right here. The United Kingdom's gross domestic product grew by 0.2% in quarter 4, 2018. So in that last quarter, 2018, that's just barely above the line of recession. 0.2%. Now, things have got worse in January, February, and March. And we're up to March now. So the first quarter numbers are not in yet. Okay? Now remember that. They need 2 consecutive quarters of negative GDP growth for a recession to be declared. Okay? And the numbers aren't in yet for the first quarter of this year, but we're almost there. Okay? I'm betting. Well, I'm not going to say for absolute certainty, but I'm betting it could very well be negative if it was only 0.2% in the quarter 4 2018. Okay? So that's the first 3 months gone of this year. Now, if they get this extension for 3 months, there's going to be uncertainty the whole time. We're going to be going through this same thing we're going through now. Arguing, Theresa May trying to get some new deal done, and the same old stuff we're going through right now, the same old bickering, just extending it for another 3 months of this uncertainty. Meanwhile, the British economy is slipping even further. So that'll be, when those 3 months are finished, where will we be? We'll be in the second quarter of 2019. So, we'll have very likely, 2 consecutive quarters of negative growth. What I'm pointing to is this throwing Britain into a recession. If Britain goes into a recession, at the end of that 3rd month of delay, they're going to be facing the same thing all over again, a hard Brexit, a no-deal Brexit. They'll be facing, at the end of the 3 months, they'll be facing that same thing all over again. Except this time around, they're going to have to extend it again in another 3 months, right? To not face that wall again? Well, how are the people in Britain that want to leave going to feel about that? We got to then focus our attention on not only the recession that it could cause, but at that point we're going to have to focus our attention on the people. Are they going to be willing to let them have another 3 months, and another 3 months after that, and another 3 months after that? Are they going to be willing, or is economic problems going to, and this whole debate over this whole thing, and this whole wrangling back and forth, going to get the better of them? This whole thing is just pushing a meltdown. The way I see it, it's almost like pushing a meltdown off 3 months into the future. It's like a kid whose father says to him, "You're going to get a spanking," you know? And the kid says, "Well, can't I have it tomorrow?" And, you know, and the father says, "Okay, I'm going to spank you tomorrow." Well, all night long, the kid's not going to be able to sleep that night because he's just pushed it off for one more day. It's just prolonging the agony. You know, that's the way I see it anyway. That's my opinion. So, but that's what politicians do. They always push things off into the future. And I guess the logic of this is they want to push it off until they're not in office anymore, and then they don't have to take responsibility for whatever it is. And it doesn't matter what it is, they just keep doing that. They push it on to the next guy. Meanwhile, the problems continue to accumulate. It's the old saying, sweeping it under the rug sort of a thing. So this is the way I think it's going to go. I think they're going to get I think that the highest probability is they're going to get the 3-month extension. We're going to have 3 months more wrangling over this thing and uncertainty. Meanwhile, the British economy is slowly sliding down that slope toward recession, and we'll have the second quarter in by the time those next 3 months are done. Thank you guys for listening. Like and subscribe, and we'll keep you up to date on the latest of what's going on. Bye-bye, guys.